Welcome, everybody, and for the first part of the three-part series of training for Jordan, and this one is called The Rich History of Jordan. And I would like to start with, just saying ahlan wa sahlan, welcome today. Jordan is a fantastic place to go and see, and the history there is vast and extends all over the country. The country of Jordan has thousands of registered archaeological sites that you can go and see. However, today we would like to present you with 10 of those sites that have a lot of significance, that has a great historical story, and also most importantly is that these are the sites most visited by international travelers, specifically travelers from North America, which is what we do as the Jordan Tourism Board of North America. And we want to make sure that you guys know about the history in Jordan. Now, again, this is going to be a different type of presentation. We're going to be only talking about the sites, their significance in history, and what makes them unique. Just so you know, when they're going to be introduced into an itinerary, you know what they stand for and what is there to expect for the traveler. Now, I would like to start with the Citadel in Amman. Now, this is the capital city in of the country. Amman Citadel is one site that is located in the downtown area of Amman. It's actually located on one of the 7 hills that make up the capital, Amman. And this site is very important in Jordan, just because it's possibly the oldest site, or parts of it date back to the Neolithic era. Now, so the earliest occupation in this site dates back to around 7200 BC, and that is very significant, obviously, from the standpoint of how old it is. But what is also important to know that it was, this was a site that was also fortified in the Bronze Age, and it was the capital of Amun, the Ammonites kingdom in the 1200 BC. After that, it was occupied by the Assyrians, then the Babylonians, and the Romans, and the Byzantine, all the way until the Umayyad era. Now, so many things to see and to enjoy in this site. It's quite an expansive site, and you can see so many different monuments. And just one other thing I want to say is that this is considered one of the oldest continuously inhabited places in the world. And some of the artifacts that you get to see in the archaeology museum that's out there is also from that site, or also from another site nearby called Ain Ghazal. And this site is world known for how ancient it is, and it's also known for the statues that they found there. Some of the oldest statues made by man that depict a human form. So here you can see, on the left side, this is some of the Roman history that you can see in the Citadel. At the bottom right, you can see across from the site down the hill, you can see a Roman theater that is so well preserved. That's also from that Roman era that occupied that area, not just this site, but also the surrounding areas. And when, if you remember when I was talking about the Neolithic era and the statues, these are some that exist in the site itself. This is, these are the statues you can see at the Archaeology Museum in the Citadel in Amman. And there are some that are in international museums as well, to name one, the Louvre in Paris. The next site, the second one, is going to be Jerash, which is known as the Crossroads of Civilization. This is a wonderful site that is really well preserved, to the point you can still see the chariot markings from the Roman times on the pavement. A lot of the site was, is still in its original form. You could still see here, this is the Oval Forum in the heart of the city. This is where they used to exercise political conversations or any conversations in the city that had to do with decision making. This is one of the earliest forms of shared responsibility with the public or with the inhabitants of the city, which also is a form of democracy. And in Jerash, you can see many sites. This is a site that needs at least half a day to a full day of visitation. Plenty of things to see, plenty of history to uncover and look at. Obviously, we always highly recommend you have a travel guide with you to explain all the intricate details of all the different buildings and the different times and the different civilizations that went through these ancient sites. You can see here as well, there is a really well preserved Roman theater in the city that we still use as Jordanians for a musical festival that happens every summer. And it's just, as you can see, it's a very well preserved theater. The next site I would like to talk about here is Madaba. Madaba is one of the oldest Christian towns that we have in Jordan. And it's also known as a city of mosaics. And it has the oldest known mosaic map of the Holy Land. And I'll explain a little further down the line. And you can see a lot of mosaic art in the history of Jordan. So we start in Madaba with the mosaics. And again, a lot of the mosaics come from the Byzantine era. That practice was very prevalent at the time. And this city has a few really important sites, and the first one is this church that has this mosaic map that I mentioned earlier. This is the Greek Orthodox Basilica of Saint George. This was built in 1880. However, this church was rebuilt basically. This was an ancient church that was built in the 6th century. And what you see right here is just the floor. I made sure that I shared both photos in here just so you can see how it looks like. So that's the original mosaic map, and they just basically built around it. They also say that they built this church using some of the ancient stones that made that ancient church. Very interesting, really good site to go and see. If you look at the mosaic map, you can see right there in the middle that oval shape. That's depicting Jerusalem, and then also, of course, many of the other cities that were around in the Holy Land in that era. Very significant. It is regarded as one of the most important mosaic maps in the world. And of course, nearby within the city of Madaba is Mount Nebo. And this is where Moses once stood and saw the holy cities that are around in that area, such as Jericho and Jerusalem and many other nearby cities. This is, regarded as one of the most important sites in, biblical times. And so this, what you see in front of you, is the original Byzantine church that was constructed in the 4th century. And this was basically reconstructed. This was a church that was reconstructed in recent years. And you can still go inside and see many of the historic artifacts. And then you can also see some of the amazing mosaic floor art that still exists there today. And you can see that, there's some damage, but this is some of the really, some of the best preserved in the world. It's quite a site, really. So a highly recommended place that you stop by as you visit Jordan. A very, very important historic site. The next place I want to talk about is Kerak. Kerak is also one of those significant historic places, and also part of many itineraries of travelers going into the country. And This was a Crusader castle that was built in the 12th century, and had a very, very important part of that time. In the Crusader times, it was built on a very strategic plateau overlooking the Jordan Valley, and it was also on the trading routes between many of the areas around at the time. And it was, it showed a lot of significance at the time, and it also was built in such a way that we are lucky to have it today, you know what I mean, because it went through so much, but it was preserved, and you can go and see and take a look at it today. It's beautiful inside, again, really well preserved as well. You can go and see how it looks like in all the different chambers and many other things. But again, this was primarily built for protection, so this wasn't a leisurely, site, but nevertheless, really important to go and see. And this is also on your way down to the southern part of the Jordan. So when you're going to Petra or Wadi Rum, you can always pass by and make sure that you visit this site. The next one I want to highlight is Qais. And Qais is another Greco-Roman city. This was also part of the Decapolis Roman cities in the eastern part of the Roman Empire. And what's unique about the city is that, of course, it's still really well preserved. However, the stone they used there is very unique. They used volcanic rock, which gives it this dark color, and again, it's really, really nice to see. Also looks a lot, parts of it look a lot like Jerash. It just depicts all the different aspects of any Roman city at the time. And you can also see from up there, what's also very unique about it is its location. This is on the northern tip of the country, and it overlooks the Sea of Galilee, or also known as Lake Tiberias. It just tells you about how the proximity of the city to the other cities that are in the neighboring countries as well, that were also part of the Decapolis and in the Roman times. Interesting place to go and see, and definitely a must-see when you're in Jordan or when you're in the northern part of the country. At least half a day visit here. The next part of our presentation is going to talk about the World Heritage Sites in Jordan, the UNESCO sites, basically. And we have 5 of them. And I would like to start with the first one. It's called al-Rasas. And al-Rasas is one of my favorite ones in the country, just because of its significance, and it's also because of how when you get there, you don't expect much. But when you go in and you look at what it has, specifically the mosaic art that they have, it is amazing, really, really well preserved. Excellent day visit as well. It is located around 20 miles southeast of Madaba, so it's very easily accessible when you're making your way down south, or if you're in Amman and making a day trip to Madaba, you can also include this on your day trip and make your way to Rasas for a few hours to get to take a look at the site and also enjoy looking at the mosaic art in that church. Now, this what you see in front of you is called the Stylite Tower. That was also used by the locals at the time. This was erected in the Roman era, and it was used for religious purposes. And again, just the mosaic. So it's not just Madaba, but then also other cities around. And as I was saying earlier, you're going to see a lot of mosaic art all over the country. And you can see some of the other ones right here. This all exists inside the church in the site of Rasas. The next UNESCO World Heritage Site is Qusayr Amra. And Qusayr Amra is located in the eastern desert in Jordan, and it dates back to the 8th century. This is part of a larger structure that once existed. And this is more of a cabin size, a small castle, and that's the name actually. Qusayr is, in Arabic, it means a small castle, and there's a lot of significance to this site, specifically that this site is not just it's well preserved, but its location, what it was used for as well. This was used for leisure at the time, and it was used by the Umayyad Caliph in the 8th century. And it features a lot of art inside. The last thing you would expect in the middle of the desert is you go and by, and you're looking at beautiful frescoes and murals all over the structure inside on the walls. And you can see some more as well. And perhaps the most important part of this art is that this was secular art, rarely seen in any of the Islamic era history that exists in our region. So this was, this is basically a rarity that is out there, and it was very significant. When they found this site, it was very significant to give us a glimpse into what that world looked like in history, specifically in ancient Islamic history. And one other thing that is very significant about this site is that this dome has a fresco in it. You can still see parts of this fresco and the mural. This is the first known representation of heaven on a dome structure. This is the oldest one. And again, you see some of this in Europe, some of the ancient history out there, but this is known to be the oldest one to depict heaven on a dome structure. The next site is the baptism site in Jordan, also known as Bethany beyond the Jordan. And this site is very significant because of its religious significance, obviously, but it's also chosen as the baptism site, and it is there are so many evidence out there to show us why this was chosen as a UNESCO site. So because of these things that exist there, so there is a water collection system, there are pools, there are baptismal pools, and also ancient churches out there that explain to us that this was a place of baptism, which most likely would take us back to the baptismal of Jesus Christ. So you can still go there, take your clients, go into the waters of the Jordan River and get baptized. You can even organize it for your group or just go in individually. And then you can also see some of this history that's out there. So here in front of you is some really ancient mosaic art. This is a mosaic floor of a church, an ancient church that was built right there in that site. So this is definitely a must-see as well in Jordan, and a very important historical site in the country. The next one is Wadi Rum, and maybe many of you do not expect Wadi Rum, the desert of Wadi Rum, to be on the list of ancient and historic sites. But Wadi Rum is known to be the place for people to go and see and enjoy a beautiful desert, the sand dunes, the rock formations, so many adventure activities out here. And then also it's been made famous recently by so many films that were put there, and then also the dome tents that are now famous, and people want to go and experience the desert night and the skies and the stars from those domes. However, Wadi Rum made it on the UNESCO World Heritage Sites list because of the historic significance of the desert itself, and the rock formations they found a lot of history on them. So the petroglyphs and inscriptions that were found there is that, and also some other archaeological remains, they testify to over 12,000 years of human occupation and interaction with nature, the natural environment around them. And also, Wadi Rum has over 25,000 rock carvings and over 20,000 inscriptions. So, just gives you an idea of how ancient this site is. And I wanted to highlight this very specific image here. This is one of the most famous ones. It's an easy access one. So if you're on a Jeep tour out in Wadi Rum, you can easily stop by, and you'll have a guide with you that explains what this is about. Again, there's so many of them, but this is just one of the ones that you will definitely see if you go, for a day visit. But if you spend more time in Wadi Rum, you can make sure you can go and see some really interesting ones that are out there in that area of Wadi Rum. And of course, I wanted to save the best for last. So Petra, the Rose Red City, world known, and it's one of the world's 7 wonders. This city was and again, I keep emphasizing this is a city, not a site, because it once had over 30,000 people live in this city. And there's over 400 tombs that were carved into the sheer mountains of the Wadi Musa area by the Nabateans. And this was all done, construction started in about 200 BC, so some of the oldest ones. The oldest sites in the city go back to 200 BC, and it's quite a scene. It's an amazing place to go see, on a lot of people's list of places to see, in their lifetime. And again, I would also urge everybody, whoever asks me about Petra, I've been many times. I still enjoy it, every time I go there. It's a very unique place, and again, it's really humbling to be around such beautiful history, and the architecture that is just out there is just out of this world. And again, just make sure you see it also at night when you're out there, if you have the opportunity. And I want to also, I want you to see Petra in a different way. There is a video that was produced by Matador, and we helped them out with it a few years back. And I just want to play it. It's a very short one, but it gives you a really good idea of the vastness of the site of Petra. And I hope you enjoyed that. And then I also wanted to go through a few things just as reminders for everybody. The Jordan Specialist Program is hosted on Travel Agent Academy. Just go to www.travelagentacademy.com/Jordan. There are 7 chapters in there and 2 master's chapters as well. Very extensive. If you want to learn a lot more about Jordan and its history, you can also go through the course to learn. When travel comes back and when you have travelers going to Jordan in the near future, please make sure that you go into the Jordan Rewards program and register and also report your bookings. We would love to send you some consumer leads again when the time is right. I also wanted to mention that we had recently launched a website called holyjordan.com. So please go and visit if you are interested. It has a lot of information on the faith travel that Jordan has and how it can attract North American travelers and what it has to offer. And with that, I would like to thank you, and I hope that you enjoyed the presentation today.